Polls have opened in Iran's presidential election runoff. Today's vote will be a tight race between lawmaker Masoud Pezeshkian, the sole moderate in the original field of 4 candidates, and the former Revolutionary Guards member Saeed Jalili. Now, the polls will close at 6 p.m. local time. They are usually extended until as late as midnight. The final result will be announced on Saturday, although initial figures may come out sooner. The runoff election follows last Friday's polls, where only about 40% of voters turned up to cast their ballots. As a result, none of the 4 candidates were able to garner the 50% of votes needed to win, sending the election into a runoff round. In the first round, Pezeshkian won with a slight lead. The election is to choose a successor to President Ibrahim Raisi, who died in a helicopter crash in May. Now, the reformist candidate Pezeshkian, who is a former health minister, has promised he will engage with the West in nuclear negotiations to lift the tough economic sanctions that are plaguing Iran's economy. On the other hand, the ultra-hardliner Saeed Jalili, a former nuclear negotiator, has portrayed a much tougher position on negotiations. He's also underlined his plans to defeat sanctions and strengthen economic ties with other countries. The next president is not expected to usher in any major policy shift on Iran's nuclear program or support for militia groups across West Asia, since Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei calls all the shots on the top state matters. However, the president can influence the tone of Iran's domestic and foreign policy. Insiders say Khamenei is keen on a loyal and a compliant president who can ensure a smooth eventual succession to his successor.
خیر و برکت باشد. همونطور که در تصاویر مشاهده می‌کنین، رهبر معظم انقلاب اسلامی وارد سلامتی که رهبر معظم انقلاب نظارت صیانت خواهد شد تا دوم خیر و برکت باشد. همونطور که در تصاویر مشاهده می‌کنین، رهبر معظم انقلاب اسلامی.
For more on this, we are now being joined by Hamid Reza Ghulamzadeh, who is the Secretary General of the Asian Mayors Forum and a political analyst, and he's joining us live from Tehran. Welcome to the broadcast, Hamid Reza. First up, do tell me,
thank you,
how much of an effect will the outcome today have on the Iran's domestic and foreign policy, considering we have candidates from 2 opposing factions, so to say, of governance? How much of an impact will it overall have on the diplomacy and on the domestic front as well?
Foreign policy of Iran is not decided by President or Prime Minister merely. It is actually a decision made by Supreme National Security Council and approved by the Supreme Leader. But it doesn't mean that the 2 people, I mean the government, the President or the Prime Minister, do not have any role in that. They have a significant role by the priority that they can give to the foreign policy and the idea that it would follow for the agenda that they would follow for their government. So we had, for example, President Rouhani until 3 years ago, who had focused on negotiation with the West and having JCPOA in order to remove the sanctions. And on the other side, we had, for the last 3 years, we had President Raisi, who had focused on working on an alternative to negotiations with the West. He did not leave the talks. He had some rounds of talks, however, did not bear any fruit, and it was not very successful. And the blame is on the West, of course, for the Iranian side. But he considered that there are many other ways. So the basket of your diplomacy can include more eggs actually in that, and you can have a lot of more ideas for improving your economy by use of foreign policy and diplomatic relations that you might have. So having a better relations with neighbors and improving their ties was one of the top agendas of him. Joining the coalitions like Shanghai Cooperation Organization or BRICS and such coalitions was a multilateral entities was another approach in his foreign policy. And shifting towards East, like China and Russia, or a global south, like Latin America or Africa, where are there alternatives that is for a foreign policy? So the difference you can see is a wide range actually, and that if the priority could be put only on Western talks, it would have a result which is totally different from what another priority had actually resulted in during President Raisi. So this change, this impact can be seen in the priorities that the president would put. Right now, Mr. Pezeshkian is again repeating the same priority of President Rouhani, to have negotiations, and the only way is to remove the sanctions to improve the economy, and there is no other choice. However, during one of his TV debates, he had a former Iranian ambassador to Russia with him as an advisor, which means that he has realized that he needs to consider this shift toward East, and he needs to work with other countries like Russia and China or other alternatives. But he has a priority for the negotiations. On the other side, Jalili, who has been actually part of the negotiations in the long past, does not believe in putting all the priorities on negotiations. He is not against the JCPOA. He says that we have accepted that, and we need to actually ask the other side, the Western side, to implement the commitments and to be committed to what they accepted during the JCPOA. But we need to find other ways to improve economy. So by actually paying attention to the domestic capacities and capabilities, and improving the relations with the neighbors and the other examples that I said about President Raisi, continuation of President Raisi would be his focus actually in the foreign policy.
Right. Would you say it's a bit of a catch-22 for Iran right now? Because while you do speak about the economy, Saeed Jalili has kind of raised fears about a possible price hike should his opponent come into the position of the president. And at the same time, when you speak about the nuclear deal and the sanctions being lifted, the 2015 deal was struck with the blessing of the supreme leader himself. While on the other hand, it does not really align with his way of governance. Would you still say that currently, given the state of economy, Iran needs a reformist government, or will that have rarely any impact on the way the things are on the economic front?
No, based on the two candidates that we have running right now and the plans that they proposed during the debate, it seems that Mr. Jalili has a lot of plans, while Mr. Pezeshkian does not have any plans. So he always said that I would consult with the experts, I would talk with the experts, and they would decide what would be the best choice. So he doesn't seem to have any agenda or any particular plans for fixing the economy. He has just a general idea that we need to remove the sanctions, and the sanctions removal of the sanctions depends on the negotiations with the United States and with the West. But on the other side, Jalili has a lot of plans. So it seems that Jalili is going to be, practically speaking, Jalili is going to be a better choice right now from among these two people. I'm not talking about the 6 runners who were competing 10 days ago, or the possibilities that could come to office. Right now, between these two, it seems that Jalili is going to be a better choice because he's focusing on domestic capacity. Well, the improvement of economy needs focus on domestic products and improvement of economy from the within. Even if you have the JCPOA, if you have removed the sanctions, if you don't have the infrastructures, you are not going to be able to use removal of sanctions in a proper way, and it's not going to be a fruit for your economy in long term.
What would you say about the voter turnout? Round 1 saw a relatively low voter turnout. Does that reflect on the voter apathy?
No, we had in 2005, we had such a situation that we had a runoff election. And at that time, the second round of election witnessed a couple of % less turnout. but it doesn't seem to be like that today. So based on the witnesses that we can see from this morning, turnout has been higher right now. I voted in the morning at AM last week, and the station that I went to was very actually uncrowded. There was no one actually there voting, just a couple of people. But this morning, more people are turning at the same time. It might be because of the weather, because the forecast has said that it's going to be very hot. So because of the weather, maybe people would go to ballot boxes in the morning or in the evening, which are actually less hot during the day. Yes, the predictions, which cannot be trusted actually significantly, because last week the speculations on the phones were very different from the reality on the ground. But by the analysis and the speculations that we are seeing right now, it is expected that it might go over 50%. But as I said, we cannot rely on the phones right now, and we should wait and see, because the voting behavior of the people in Iran has significantly changed, and none of the polls could predict their behavior. And now, right now, during the past week, what we witnessed that was the campaigns were trying to frighten the people from the consequences of the other side of the competition. Okay. So if Jalili comes, that would have such a result. If Pezeshkian comes, we have such results. So there were frightening in order to awaken those people who did not vote in the first round. Okay. And we should wait and see what.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hamid Reza Gholamzadeh, for your insights on the broadcast today.
Thank you very much for having me.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.